Tonight, a fragile truce breaks down. The fighting and the danger start up again in the Israel-Hamas war. Both sides blaming the other.
It came to an end because of Hamas.
With fears here for family in Gaza.
You know what's coming up. No.
The anger over RCMP allegations of a secret Chinese police station in Quebec.
What is the evidence against us?
Plus, a man sheltering in a dumpster and hurled into a garbage truck, highlighting the urgent need this winter. Also cut off concerns of a Christmas tree shortage. And an unexpected search.
I have not experienced anything like this.
A kangaroo on the loose in Ontario.
It's fast.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina. Reporting tonight, Heather Butts.
Good evening. In the Middle East, the ceasefire has abruptly ended, with combat resuming again this morning after talks to extend the week-long truce fell apart. Within hours, Israel launching airstrikes, killing nearly 200 people, according to the Hamas-run health ministry. CTV's Judy Trin on the fresh fears as the deadly fighting resumes.
Israeli airstrikes casting new fear tonight. The bombardments began this morning in southern Gaza, where hundreds of thousands of Palestinians are seeking refuge. They annihilated Gaza. Nothing is left, said Mohammed Abu Mustafa. This is what happens to all Arabs. They die. Hamas also fired rockets, easily swatted down by Israel's Iron Dome. The Jewish state and its closest ally, the U.S., blames Hamas for violating the terms of the ceasefire, which held for a week.
It came to an end because of Hamas. Hamas reneged on commitments it made. In fact, even before the pause came to an end, it committed an atrocious terrorist attack in Jerusalem.
During the pause in fighting, Israel agreed to free 350 imprisoned Palestinians, mostly minors. Meanwhile, Hamas released 110 hostages, among them the family of Tal Shasham. While his wife and children are safe, his whereabouts still unknown.
We missed him and we want him, and he must come back home immediately, because we don't even know what is the medical situation with him. We don't know if he's alive.
Humanity has shut its eyes.
The sleepless nights continue for Isra al-Safin. One of her brothers was killed in an explosion fleeing from northern Gaza. 9 other family members sheltering in the south are at risk of bombings and disease.
They already did not pass the fact and the traumas and the things that they have been seeing, and they're now all over again. It's like, you know what's coming up.
Qatari negotiators say they will continue pushing for another truce to prevent the humanitarian conditions from getting even worse. There are still 2 million people trapped in Gaza. Heather.
All right, Judy, thank you. New job numbers are painting a clearer picture of the highs and lows of Canada's labour market. The economy added a modest 25,000 jobs last month. Despite the growth, most in full-time positions, the unemployment rate still rose to 5.8%. The gains offset by Canada's rapid population growth, leaving workers fewer options in the job market. CTV's Jeremy Charon reports.
Modest gains overshadowed by a slowly but steadily increasing jobless rate. That's the story of November's labor force update. Construction and manufacturing industries saw the biggest boost, but the 25,000 new jobs added still outpaced by population growth.
We are seeing very strong immigration numbers, especially on the non-permanent resident side, that is temporary foreign workers, international students, and refugees that are coming in.
The numbers paint a picture of a job market that simply didn't change much. 0.1% is the magic number. That's how much the unemployment rate rose, and it also represents the percentage of jobs added. The bigger story, experts say, is the steady rise of the unemployment rate, up 0.7% since April.
We are seeing the weakness in real GDP that we've experienced basically over the course of this entire year starting to bleed into the labor market and weakening the labor market as a result.
The big question is what kind of an impact this will have on the Bank of Canada's key rate. Historically, when employment rises, rates drop, but it's believed we're not there yet.
Certainly, I think we're going to see the continued pause in interest rates. I think we have a long ways to go before we see the full impact of interest rates, of the hikes that we've had thus far.
Most experts believe the Bank of Canada could be done raising interest rates, but its Governor Tiff Macklem has said it isn't totally off the table.
Now, the Bank of Canada's next interest rate announcement is set for Wednesday. The last two have held the key rate steady at 5%. And Heather, it's expected that will be the case again.
Thanks, Jeremy. Winnipeg police have made an arrest in a mass shooting last weekend that left 4 people dead. Jamie Randy Felix, a military veteran, was out on probation for assault.
This has been a stressful time for not only the Winnipeg Police Service, but the entire city and beyond.
The 32-year-old suspect now faces murder charges, also 1 count of attempted murder for another victim who was wounded and is still in critical condition. A young Calgary man has pleaded guilty to a terrorism charge. 20-year-old Zakaria Rida Hussein admitted he shared ISIS videos on TikTok and posted on Snapchat that he was planning to target Pride events. Police searched his home and seized instructions on how to make explosives. And convicted murderer Nathaniel Veltman from London, Ontario, will have to wait till the new year to learn his fate in the 2021 killing of the Afzaal family. The 22-year-old will be sentenced over 2 days in early January. His life sentence is not in dispute, but the judge will determine whether his actions were terrorism-related. Canada's spy agency has launched a workplace assessment 1 day after serious allegations of sexual assault were made public. CSIS says it is probing its British Columbia office after a senior officer was accused of rape and sexual assault. The agency dismissed claims that its internal grievance process was flawed. The RCMP is facing a threat of a lawsuit from 2 Chinese community groups over what they say are defamatory allegations. It comes after the 4 said it was investigating secret police stations in the Montreal area. The organizations have denied the accusations and say they have been unfairly targeted, causing people to lose their jobs. CTV's Vanessa Lee explains.
The Chinese Family Service of Greater Montreal, along with Sino Quebec, say they have suffered irreparable damage since being accused of doubling as secret Chinese police stations.
We never did that.
Xi Li runs both centers. This is the first time she is publicly addressing the allegations since they surfaced in March, saying she has been traumatized.
In all of my life, I'm working for the community for 30 years. I'm always trying to help people. I cannot imagine this kind of terrible things happen to me, and I cannot face it. And I have to hide in my house.
She says the groups have suffered major funding cuts, affecting their ability to support everyone from newcomers to victims of domestic violence. They are now threatening to sue the RCMP for $2.5 million for defamation.
We ask for their reputation to be compensated and also some punitive damages.
The community is also demanding answers.
What is the evidence against us? And not even that, what are the charges? What are the accusations?
The RCMP won't comment on threats of a lawsuit or these specific locations, but say their investigations into so-called police stations are ongoing and they have disrupted illegal activity. They add some of the places they are examining do offer legitimate services. Human rights group Safeguard Defenders says it has found evidence of China operating in more than 100 locations in 53 countries around the globe to harass and monitor Chinese nationals abroad.
It's now more and more that they're trying to prevent any negative commenting and trying to really influence what we as Canadians are thinking about China and their political system.
This coalition says the lack of explanation leaves them no choice except to exercise legal recourse as they maintain their innocence. Vanessa Lee, CTV News, Montreal.
Canada's long-awaited bail reform bill is on track to become law. This would make it more difficult for repeat violent offenders to be released pending trial. The federal government has faced sustained calls from provinces and police chiefs for an overhaul, saying the system was too lenient. Canada is trying to come out as a leader at a major United Nations climate change summit in Dubai, making that more difficult. Setbacks for the federal government here at home as groups challenge Ottawa's carbon pricing system in court. CTV's Garrett Berry reports.
At COP28, we will continue what we started at UNGA to boost participation in Canada's global carbon pricing challenge.
Environment Minister Stephen Guilbeault says Canada is a leader in the fight against climate change. He praised COP28 attendees for reaching an early deal to create a fund that will help smaller countries pay the costs of climate change.
This is something Canada fought hard to establish last year at COP27. So I'm happy to announce that Canada is providing $16 million in seed money to the startup costs of this fund for loss and damage.
A modest amount that's provoking a modest reaction.
I hope this is the beginning of something as opposed to the sum total of what we're going to contribute.
But the bigger challenge to Canada's climate policy is coming in the courts. This week, a group representing First Nations in Ontario filed a challenge to Canada's carbon pricing system.
We're now saying we need an exemption. We need an exemption from the federal government. They've demonstrated that they can do it.
Grand Chief Abram Benedict says people in his communities are paying carbon taxes, but have no means to get relief.
Well, we've been trying to get the federal government to understand and to realize that, First Nation communities are severely disadvantaged by what's available and, it's discriminatory, frankly.
Some can't get rebates because they don't file Canadian federal income taxes, and some just don't have the option of switching to other fuels.
Communities that are on diesel-powered generators, it's not possible to not have, unfortunately, burning diesel fuel to power the community, and the cost is significant to them.
The Chiefs of Ontario want a judge to order the federal government back to the negotiating table to try to find a deal that addresses the harms of climate change, but also gives First Nation communities more access to rebates and subsidies. Heather?
All right, thanks, Garrett. A disgraced American politician was expelled from Congress today for the first time since the Civil War.
2/3 voting in the affirmative, the resolution is adopted.
Fellow lawmakers voted to send George Santos packing. The Republican from New York has lurched from one scandal to the next. He's facing criminal charges, including money laundering and fraud. He also broke ethics rules, stole campaign funds, and lied about his resume. And one more note from Washington. The first woman to serve on the U.S. Supreme Court, Sandra Day O'Connor, has died. The daughter of a rancher, she became perhaps the most powerful woman in America when President Reagan nominated her in the 80s, an era of social change with issues like abortion, affirmative action, and voting rights on the docket. O'Connor retired in 2006 and in recent years was battling dementia. She was 93. Coming up, treated like garbage.
If it was me, I'd be scared. I'd be scared for my life.
A man sheltering in a dumpster survives being thrown into a truck. Plus, the moment a BC construction project crumbled. Alarming surveillance video has been released showing a man being tossed into a dump truck. The video posted by an advocacy group to highlight the scale of the homelessness crisis in Canada. CTV's Derek Haggett on a near miss.
While most of Moncton was still in bed, this is how one man was jolted awake. He survived, rescued from a garbage truck by firefighters. This homeless advocate called it chilling, but he knows this is happening frequently, people sleeping in dumpsters.
And unfortunately, they're left with either stay outside in the harsh elements or climb inside of a dumpster to try to keep out of the wind and keep warm. And I think we as a society can do better than that.
I spoke with a Good Samaritan today who was driving her bicycle along St. George Street early Wednesday morning when she saw the man screaming from the top of the truck. She couldn't catch up, but she did call 911 and possibly saved his life.
He's doing all right. He's a little shaken up. You know, it really scared him. I can't even imagine how scared he must have been when that happened. Like, if it was me, I'd be scared. I'd be scared for my life.
Homeless advocate John Renton has spoken with the man since his ordeal.
He still can't speak. He was yelling so loud in the back of the truck that he's hoarse today. He's still in the same situation he was before this happened. I mean, he's unhoused. He's on the streets. It's not a great way to live.
Those living on the streets say a dumpster full of cardboard can be a warm place to stay, but not a safe one.
Good source of heat. Well, as much heat as you can get from it. And I mean, you got 4 walls and a roof, I guess. But that is a dangerous part. You never know when that truck's going to show up.
Many people that aren't going to the shelters for whatever reason have to find some place to survive. And if it's a stormy night, yes, they'll jump in a cardboard shelter preferably.
There may be no clearer example of how bad things have become when this is considered the best way to survive. Derek Haggett, CTV News, Moncton.
And another dramatic rescue from a dump truck to tell you about thanks to alert neighbors. This truck rolled into a frigid marsh near Ottawa last Tuesday. Minutes later, Devin Campbell spotted the crash site.
I could see tire tracks going off the road, and then that guardrail was completely gone.
Campbell and a friend found the driver trapped inside, water up to his chin.
Like, they were in the water for probably 30 minutes, maybe more, just in and out, like they were purple.
With the help of first responders, the man was freed after he spent 70 minutes in freezing water. He was treated for hypothermia, but is doing well. No one was injured when a large portion of a retaining wall crumbled at a construction site in BC. Cracks started to form before a section of the wall broke off and tumbled several stories, unleashing a torrent of dirt to the ground below. The jaw-dropping video at the construction site of a Coquitlam condo tower is now part of an investigation. Still ahead, the hunt for the perfect evergreen. Why a major shortage may leave some families without a festive tradition. Concerns tonight over a treasured holiday tradition, the Christmas tree. Those looking for a real tree might want to act fast. There are a number of challenges facing the industry, leaving some retailers in short supply. CTV's Allison Bamford explains.
There's no place like a tree farm during the holidays.
Just to stand on the deck of the tree store there and listen to the families down here and finding their tree and having fun down here. That's what Christmas is all about.
Judy Gilmore's been growing Christmas trees for the last 19 years and selling them for the last 4. Each year she caps her sales at 50.
I control the number of the trees that I sell every year just to make sure I've got stock for next year.
She's not too concerned about her small operation, but larger tree farms across the country are being challenged by extreme weather, disease, and the economy. According to Statistics Canada, more than 1,000 Christmas tree farms shut down in the last decade.
The unfortunate thing is we can work on ways today, but it takes 10 to 12 years to grow a Christmas tree. So it's not something that we can do just overnight.
For the last few years, retailers say Christmas trees have been in short supply as demand grows for real greenery. The prairies feel the effects the most with so few tree farms. Many retailers import from Quebec and Nova Scotia, where the numbers are higher. But this year, some shipments are down hundreds of trees and selection is sparse.
You might not get the tree that you typically always get, but I do believe that Canada has enough trees to supply the people that want them.
Families are encouraged to shop early.
Just because you buy a Christmas tree early doesn't mean you have to set it up early. You can still hold it outside in a shady part of your yard until you're ready to go.
While those trees will only last as long as the holidays, farmers in the industry call it a labor of love that they hope lasts a lifetime. Allison Bamford, CTV News, Regina.
Rick Hansen is speaking out about the accident 50 years ago that shattered his spinal cord. He went on to become a wheelchair athlete and a Canadian hero. Earlier today, he spoke to Sandy Ronaldo about that anniversary and the importance of staying positive.
Hope is the most important thing. And if you hang on to hope, and if you slowly start to repopulate this dark canvas of despair into lights of hope and possibility. And for me, it was setting baby goals, thinking, okay, I'm going to learn how to use the wheelchair. Okay, now I'm going to be able to set a goal to get out of the rehab center and go home, maybe go back to school again. And of course, thinking about getting back out into the outdoors with my family and eventually getting back to sport. And those little goals really started to fill me with momentum and then started to build a sense of confidence and a sense of wholeness in my life. And it fired up that passion and kept me moving forward.
And you can watch the special broadcast, Rick Hansen Unbreakable 50 Years Later, tomorrow at 7 p.m. on CTV. After the break, the unusual chase. A high-profile search for a hopping kangaroo on the loose. As far as fugitives go, this was likely a first for a police force east of Toronto. A kangaroo, yes, you heard that right, a kangaroo was spotted on a roadway during the morning commute, and it led to a wild pursuit. CTV's Mike Walker picks up the tale.
He's hurt! It was a sight that had people doing a double take. A kangaroo on the loose in North Oshawa. He's fast.
I've been working at the zoo for quite a long time. I started there when I was 13 and I'm now 42, so we're going on about 30 years and I have not experienced anything like this.
The park supervisor at the Oshawa Zoo says the kangaroo was destined for a zoo in Quebec. It was supposed to spend the night at the Oshawa Zoo when it somehow escaped its handlers.
As the animal handlers who were transporting this thing, as they were trying to unload it into our warm room last night where the kangaroo would be staying, it jumped over their head out of the trailer and it has now escaped, and we are in the process of tracking it down.
Police received multiple reports about the kangaroo shortly after 7:30 this morning. A small team of volunteers began scouring the area, including Dave Hutnick, who located the kangaroo this afternoon using thermal technology on his drone. It hunkered down at a farm about 2 kilometers away from the zoo.
And realized it was the kangaroo when it began to hop across the field. So we were actually able to track it into a brushy area where she kind of hunkered down.
His security company has assisted with finding missing animals and people in the past, but this is a first.
This is a brand new experience. It's pretty interesting.
Now the challenge is trying to retrieve the animal. Mike Walker, CTV News, Oshawa.
The search has ended for tonight. The zoo expects to get back at it first thing tomorrow morning. That's it for us tonight. I'm Heather Butts. For Omar and all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching. John Ehrlichman is here tomorrow. Good night.